exactly. Scottish, actually.
Hello, Christian Cargill. So you are the writer and director of a documentary film set in the Orkneys, which is called Recomposing Earth. So can you tell us about that crazy story, please?
Recomposing Earth, yeah. Well, it's a unusual tale of a composer from the Orkney Islands in Scotland, and he loves to take field recordings from his surroundings of earth, of animals, of the ocean, and he wanted to kind of create a piece that he then could take it one step further, and rather than field recordings, he wanted earth to leave its own imprint on the music. So he signed with a record label. It's his first fully classical album, and he decided to record it with a full orchestra in Glasgow and then master it to analog quarter-inch tape and then delete all digital copies of the tape and the recording, so we were just left with the one copy, and then bury that in a mountain for 3 years, completely exposed to the elements. So no bag, no plastic sheeting.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's why I said it was crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and he's not the only crazy one in the project, because you've got these guys from music companies ready to spend money on something which might be nothing.
Yeah.
So was it a way to prove that there is something crazy in the music business, or?
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I think it's a positive act of something. I think it's a positive, crazy act, like multi layers across the board. But I think it was. The music industry in general is so safe these days. You know, it's all about algorithms and data, and they know exactly what the market wants. So this was Erland negotiating and proving that labels were still willing to take a risk when they're really put in a position to have that opportunity, which is a really rare thing. So yeah, it was definitely a leap of faith for them to put their money behind it and risk losing the music.
So it's a real, I mean, it's a real plot. I mean, it's amazing the way it's built, because so you are the writer of the film, and so you told me that you got into the project in the middle of it, but when you watch the film, so I won't spoil anything, of course, because the film is screened this evening here, and people watching the interview, if they want to know what we're talking about, they have to go somewhere to watch your film before. But the fact is, you've got several layers there, which is first, the fact that it's a thriller. When you watched your film, and time is just running, you know, because there is a treasure hunt, you know, to try to find this real, you know, buried somewhere, and so you've got a lot of things, but in the end, makes you feel that it's much more clever than crazy, because you've got behind that conception of art which is showing, and I really loved it. So can you tell me about how you worked with the musician, so which name is Harlan Cooper?
Cooper, yeah.
And the fact that, how did you decide how you would edit your film to give this thriller kind aspect of it?
Yeah, I guess it was kind of a gift of a story in that when I joined the project about halfway through, it had already been running for sort of 2-3 years. The tape had only just been found in the mountain in Orkney by this local couple down in Victoria. And so what I was coming into was this already very mapped out, very orchestrated story of, you know, it had already been mastered, they'd recorded it, it had been deleted, and then he'd employed 3 sort of almost friends, collaborators, mentors that would guard physical sheet music of the album. So that would be the only kind of hard copy that exists, that if the tape was silent, that's the evidence that we did make something at some point, right? So you've got Paul Weller, Ian Rankin, you know, these kind of great heroes within their own industries in terms of writing and music. They would be the guardians. So already coming into it, it was this kind of gift of a story that you're overwhelmed with all of these layers of the cake that you have to work out in the script how you're going to weave all of these in together in this kind of coherent madness that all leads to, you know, whether the tape survives or not. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I think a lot of what's really amazing about the project, and I think I tried to encapsulate this in the film, and also the process of making it, was on the one hand you're doing something and documenting a story which is so important, right? like the album means so much time, money, investment has gone into this work, but at the same time, none of it matters, right? It doesn't matter if it's destroyed. So it's playing this juxtaposition constantly that it's of so much value, but also is completely valueless. And there's such a playful, fun element in that. So it was just kind of trying to encapsulate some of that seriousness, but also some of that, you know, no one take yourself too seriously here. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, what does matter is kind of what the message is of the whole project rather than whether the music survives.
Yeah, well, I really love the idea of a creative process there, because as you said, what matters is the result will be just a result of defining a work of art and accepting the fact that, well, silence can be man-made, because the process of creating it, so after doing something and leaving time and the earth do its work, in the end, if you have silence, you've got to accept it, and it's a different silence. It's just a silence that you encounter just by chance. So you were asked to film and to show something which is about, in a way, the unimportance of keeping track of things, because they destroy, the memory of the music. And one of the musicians says that they knew that maybe what they were doing would amount to nothing, and she said that's maybe the reason why it was so intense, and the energy there was when they did the recording. She said it was amazing, and she would remember it all her life. And so this paradox of making a film, which is supposed to be there for a long time, about singing the praise of Seize the Day. So how can you?
Yeah, I guess with the project, what's rare about, whether or not the album is a piece of beautiful work, I shouldn't comment, but whether it's an album that will become legendary and iconic and something that really changed classical music or not, I couldn't really comment on. But every now and again in art, someone creates something which has the motivation that it will end up getting destroyed, or it's interacted with an audience in a gallery so that it deteriorates or something. But, a lot of art is behind glass, whereas this project embraces the fragility of doing that. So I think if the project was going to be the outcome that no one could really predict of whether the tape does end up becoming silent, at least we have this statement piece, this kind of document that this ever happened, I guess, to some extent, outside of the internet. Yeah, it's this statement of what we tried to do here as a project, I guess. But I don't know, maybe after the festival run I should put it on a hard drive and bury it and see if anyone finds it.
So is the setting important? I mean, the Orkney Islands, we've got beautiful images of this area, and the people are being interviewed, part of the project or active in the project, and it really looks like a real community of people, and you can feel that it's some kind of team spirit, even though it was a very individual and personal idea. So how do you explain this very?
Well, I think as a cinematographer as well, it was a gift for me, and to just come into a project where a landscape that I hadn't been to before becomes so important. It influences the music. It influenced him as an artist who had grown up on these islands in Scotland. So for me, it was just a blessing that part of the story means you get to go to this place, which, as you see, it's got all of these ancient traditions, and sort of there's this. We've got the ferry, and it was just me, the producer, and Erlen. We travelled up with him and spent a week there, where I met the couple that found the tape, and Erlen showed us around and some of the more influential areas of the town, and where, of course, the tape was planted, as he puts it. So it was. Yeah, you kind of get in on the ferry and you're immediately struck by this electricity in the air. And you wander around these old sort of Victorian, Georgian feeling towns, and you could just feel this sort of magic, everyone's smiling, and it's kind of the Wicker Man but without the sinister ending. Like, everyone is friendly and you're just part of this complete, this island life, which, Britain is an island, but I think there's something about very small communities on very remote islands where something that can't you can try and translate and how you capture it in a 30-minute film, but you kind of have to go there to really see it and feel it to believe it. Yeah, it's pretty special.
Yeah, or watch the film, because you can feel it watching it.
Great.
So about this treasure hunt, it was very funny idea first, okay? And the fact is, I wondered whether it was a way of telling people that to gain access to art, it takes now a lot of effort. You won't get it like this. So is it some kind of lesson, a cautionary tale or something like that you had in mind, or?
Yeah, I guess, well, I've hearing how the couple that found, so for context, Erlen had left kind of treasure hunt clues online. Every equinox periods, every seasonal change, he would leave a clue online in a rebus puzzle picture form. So the challenge was anyone in the world, someone travelled all the way from New Zealand. It didn't make the edit of the film, but someone travelled from New Zealand and they sent Erland an email and said, just so you know, Erland Cooper, I have been to the location of your tape. I have been there and I have dug it up, and it is not there. It has been found, and the person has not reported it, and you will never get your tape back. It's missing. And he said the coordinates where he went, and Erland kind of looked on his email, and he messaged his dad and said, could you go to these coordinates? And it was the wrong location. This person had travelled all this way. So it's, again, having a bit of fun with it. It's getting people, it was kind of post-pandemic, so it was getting people outdoors, getting people excited, going back to kind of old traditional storytelling that's not on your phone. You actually have to physically be in a place and sort of track these things down. So I just thought it was another layer of this story of, wow, this is all so fun and tongue-in-cheek and a bit silly, but also a bit serious. So with the hunt sequence, as we call it in the film, yeah, I want to be quite playful in that of this, it's almost like Erland is walking with the couple for their hunt, and he's almost leading them by this invisible hand down the wrong corridor in Stromness and up the wrong mountain, because they were searching for weeks over different trips. So yeah, I thought it was just a really fun opportunity to get quite playful with it, and it had already been found, so it was, how do I translate that on camera, of how do I want to tell that element? And that's when I had the idea that, well, he buried the tape, why don't I bury my camera, not exposed to the earth. I put it in like a Tesco's bag.
Yeah, it was an expensive camera.
Yeah, well, I took a bit of a risk, because and then I bought this like plastic sheeting to put over the lens so that he could, as you'll see in the film, that the plastic was all misted, so we ended up getting a wedding photograph frame, popped out the glass and taped that to my camera. So it was all very much in the spirit of this project. Yeah. You're taking a lot of risk. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so yeah, I've got a lot of questions yet, but well, we won't spend all the afternoon, of course, because you will have to answer a question this evening too. But so if we get towards the end, so without spoiling, I mean, I recommend everyone to watch your film, of course, from the beginning to the end, but especially the 5 last minutes are very, very moving, I think. And it ends with a question about the fact, why do we create? And that's a question I ask you. Why do you create? What pushes you to do that? How did you come to become a filmmaker, and what drives you?
Well, I guess it's this element of storytelling. I've always naturally loved film, like any director, but I was always drawn to people more than kind of wanted, like the world of studio drama and all of these elements, stuff I'd like to try it maybe in the future, but I think I was always grounded that I have a real love of real people and real stories. So I was always drawn and fascinated by real events and exploring what that might look like. So with my first film, it was about a farmer in Wales, and I just made it out the back of a van, sleeping in his field, and just kind of living with him for these few days that I'd go to visit him while juggling a full-time job at a production company. But that was a film that I made for 1,500 quid as a kind of statement piece of, you can make a film for nothing that really matters. And it wasn't that the film, it wasn't that I thought I was doing anything pretty groundbreaking in terms of how I was making it, but I knew the story was really important because I'd read about this farmer online and his perspective on how we can like reevaluate our place in the world and find happiness. So with that film, it was this moment, and the film then did very well, very unexpectedly. I thought it would get into sort of one festival and then be forgotten, but the film led to me, leaving my job and starting a production company and making this film, working my first feature documentary. But the core, it always goes back to the same thing. This film, I had a bit more money, but more than 1,500 quid, but not a crazy budget. I still, produced, shot, and did a lot of it. But it's always going back to that core value of forgetting budgets and stuff. It's all about what the story is and people, I think. And especially with this one, it's got so much heart, so much character, so many interesting elements and people getting to meet, from the couple that found it to the mod father, Paul Weller. I think it's always going back to that motivation of what is the story and why is it important to share one person or community of people's story with an audience. So yeah, that's kind of the motivation for why I create, I guess.
So I hope you keep doing it for a long time, because it's a great film, and I'm looking forward to watching it on big screen this evening. So thank you very much.
Pleasure, thanks.